Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Lighthouse Killer bringing you the first part of the threading videos, and I just wanted to bring you guys in on how we start off the day threading. When you show up to work, your film is just going to be sitting exactly how all this is. Your sound unit, it's going to be off. You can tell by none of these lights are on for the machine, so that's all off. And you can actually hear that nothing's on. Your breakers are all off, and your exhaust switch for the heavy exhaust fan is also off. So when we show up, we'll turn on our exhaust fan, and you can hear that. You can hear that going. That's this giant tube that runs up into the ceiling from our lamp house here. We will turn on all of these breakers down here on the bottom, and then we'll come on over onto this other side. And we will turn on our sound unit. Now, as you can see, the lights are all starting to come on. And when it comes to our sound choices, if we have it on non-sync right here, this will be for when we play music in the screens so that our customers can enjoy a little bit of music before their movie. Right here, the Dolby Stereo, which as you can tell, we've marked, this is where we normally play our films at. Also, we have the option to have digital sound, which is this part right here, which is the DTS unit. If I start talking about DTS or DTS unit, that is this unit here, as well as a part on the projector that I will be pointing out to you. But for all purposes during this video, we are going to be using our regular Dolby Stereo SR. Okay, so we start off our projector by, we'll be coming over here and getting these switches. We'll be switching these switches right over here to what we need them to be on. We're going to need this one on our payout, which is this selector over on this side. And then our bottom switch down here, we will have on off, because we don't want to turn it on rewind until it's actually time after we're done threading. And then our next step is to pick up this arm here, and we'll be putting it in this lower hole. We'll want to put it in the lower hole so that it has a little bit more power to it. If we put it in that top hole, it will not give us the power that we need for threading. So then, we'll just manually, the tail that's pulling out, that's hanging down, we will just wind that up. Just make sure that it's tied up against its own film. And this is the stopper for it. Now these platters, there is a motor here that when I manually spin it, the motor is spinning, but it's not a problem. It's not going to wear out that motor any faster. But when we get to this platter, we're going to take our stopper and we're going to pull out this brain. Now, when it comes to the brain, you want to make sure that you pull it out a certain way. You don't want to yank to the sides. You don't want to try and rock it up. You don't want to grab any of the smaller pieces. You want to grab right here. The center arm is connected to all of it. You want to grab the center arm and you want to pull it up. And as you can see, there's the stem that goes right down in the platter, and you want to make sure that you pull straight up. If you pull to the side, you can actually loosen it and break that stem off. So now that we've got our both, we'll go up to this next platter, and I will put the brain in. The brain can only go in one way. See right now, it's not really going in, and it'll rock all over the place. It won't even send power to it. So we got to actually lock this into place, and if you just spin it, it'll slide in on its own. It has... Okay, right here it has this little stem that is sticking out, and that stem goes in a special notch that's right down in here in the platter. So we'll put that down in here. It'll sit in, and then we'll take our stopper, and we're not going to put it at the very end, because during the film play, the film will slide around ever so slightly, and so you don't want your tail to fall out, because if the tail falls out, it can fly around, it can get stuck in the brain, which is a problem. Or if there is static on your unit, if you had carpeted floors, the tail could potentially get sucked underneath the film, which is hard to imagine having it sitting on this, but it can get sucked underneath the film and get wound up in its own brain. So you'll take your stopper and you'll put it roughly 6 inches. You don't want your tail to be sticking out any farther than the platter. So you wouldn't want it back here, because then that would just pose other problems. It can get back up in here. It can grab the film after we've threaded it. So about, a good 6 inches. I mean, you can obviously go until the platter's edge if you wanted to, but that's just too much of a tail. It's kind of worthless to do that. Okay, so then we'll come on in here and actually take the collar out. And when we take the collar out, we're going to take this knob right here, and when we're taking the collar out, we're going to pull on this knob. This knob actually pulls straight back, and if you pull to the side, it'll shrink up this area. It's no longer tight against the film, and then you can pull it out with ease. If you tried to pull it out when it was tight up against the film, you'd be pulling out trailers and the front mylar and everything, and it'd just be it'd cause a huge issue with you and actually make some static. So if you shrink up that and you pull it out, and the mylar is attached in here, but you just pull that out and take this to the bottom. Now, we shrunk it, so we're going to want to expand it again. Just by simply expanding it, it'll latch into place. We've got these stems and the holes in the platter. Then we'll put those in here. And obviously the stems go across from each other. I mean, you can't even put the stems in differently, so it sits evenly on the platter. Okay, when it comes to threading the brain, we'll take, these are all protective rollers, these small rollers out here. And when I say protective, they protect so that the rest of the film stays outside the brain, except where we enter the brain through this arm. So we'll take the front part of the mylar, and we will thread it through these two rollers that are on this swing arm. And we're going to thread it behind this. This is a keeper, just a giant keeper roller that keeps tension on the film when you're threading. And then we're also going to thread around this big roller, but in between the two keeper rollers, just to keep that tight in there so that so the film doesn't fall off. Now when I let go of that arm, since we've already turned it on payout, and we picked up this relief arm, the film is going to start spinning. That's the point of the brain. If you watch the brain, when you pull the film and that swing arm is activated, it spins the film to release that tension. And as the tension is released, let me show you again, as the tension is released, it stops. So it'll go, there's tension, and it stops automatically after the tension is relieved. So we'll go to this roller here. Now these three rollers correspond to the platter that it is nearest. I mean, the top roller, top platter, middle roller, middle platter, bottom roller, bottom platter. This roller, you'll always go underneath. So, up top, underneath the roller. This is all about the functionality of the machine itself. You always want to check your film path. You always want to make sure these rollers, as you can see, if we get up a little bit closer, these rollers have little lips on them on either side, and the film sits right on in here. You don't want to, you want to make sure that you've got it set in there correctly. If you have it hanging off this edge under tension, it could slip off and then it'd cause a problem. If it slips off, it could land down here, and then as the film is going, it can scratch the film the entire way, and that is bad. We'd be charged for that from the film company for damaging their product. So we're going to go over this, under this, and then we'll thread on up here. If you'd like to come on over here, on this other side actually. We'll thread up this area. Now this is another fail-safe. Actually, it's the first fail-safe for the platter system. The arm works like this, where if the film, let me actually thread it through so I can show you. You go up, down, around, and in, just like that. So, boom. And then your film would go over towards the projector itself. Now, if all of a sudden there was a brain wrap and you didn't have any film, the motor's still going to pull it, so it'll snap that up, this little switch up that's over here, and it'll lock down the platter unit. It'll shut off power to the take-up and the payout so that it'll actually shut down your film, which is good. You want that fail-safe because exactly what it says. It's a fail-safe. So if the machine fails, you're safe. It's to cover your own butt. So now that that's threaded, okay, now that that's all threaded, we're going to come on over here to the top, and we'll thread it over this top roller. This is kind of like the pre-threading, where you thread through, because over the top, down here to the bottom, where you take your film, and you're threading it through these rollers. It's kind of a maze of rollers. And through this roller here. You're going to go up through here. Now, as you guys can see and probably are wondering, yes, this roller does happen to be broken as the guide rail, but it is not going to hinder the film at all, because even when the film is sitting in there nice and snug, it does not catch. So a break like that would be okay. If there was a burr or something like that in here, that could scratch, but it's not. It's just right here on the edge. So we'll thread just like this. We'll go up top to this roller right here, and then we'll go all the way back down again to the roller that's over here. And we'll thread through this roller and over here to our collar. So as we've threaded this bottom roller, come over to the collar, and we'll put this front tab in between this overlapping metal that's right here. So we'll take our film, and it has this tab, as you saw before when we were pulling it out. And what we'll do is we'll actually, the collar itself can separate a little bit. As you can see, there are these two little metal pieces. Sorry about that. So we'll just slide it in between the two. It doesn't hold on perfectly. You can just pull it right out, but it holds it enough to get the first few wraps around this collar to where it'll hold it in and lock it into place. Now, as you'll keep hearing this throughout the threading process. You'll hear this platter unit it obviously is going to keep relieving itself of the pressure of the film. And right here is actually a prime example, just from taking out the collar and threading it. This film right here, it's become loose. You can see that it's getting a little loose. Okay, as you can see from the threading and removing of the collar, threading of the brain, and going through all the rollers, that the film is getting a little bit loose here. And all we got to do is just pull tight with the tail, and we'll just reposition and press down on the stopper, just to make sure that it's on there correctly.